Most men think compliments create attraction. That's why they say things like, "You're beautiful, you're amazing, I've never met someone like you," and at first it seems to work. She smiles, she says thank you, she responds, but something strange happens after that. The energy drops, the tension disappears, and slowly her interest fades. Not because the compliment was bad, but because it was predictable. Let me tell you something. Most men don't realize a compliment is not powerful because it's positive. It's powerful because of how it makes her feel about herself in that moment. And predictable compliments make her feel nothing new. She's heard them before from other men in other conversations in the same exact tone. So when you say it, you don't stand out, you blend in. Now here's where everything changes. There was a man who didn't compliment her the way others did. He didn't say she was beautiful. He looked at her, paused, and said, "You're more interesting than you look." Now read that again. That sentence is not obviously positive. It's not clearly flattering. In fact, it creates tension. And that's exactly why it worked. Because instead of giving her a feeling she already knows, he created a new emotional reaction, curiosity, challenge, a need to understand what he meant. And from that moment, she started investing, not because he praised her, but because he made her feel something unexpected. And that's the truth most men never learn. The compliments that create attraction are not the ones that make her feel safe. They are the ones that make her feel seen in a way she didn't expect. And in this video, you're going to learn 5 compliments that do exactly that. Not lines, not tricks, but psychological triggers hidden inside words. And once you understand them, you won't just compliment women, you'll make them feel something they don't forget. Before we start, a quick reminder. The real transformation doesn't happen on YouTube, it happens inside the community. If these videos have opened your eyes, what's inside will rebuild your mindset completely. It's not just a course, it's a brotherhood, a private space where men master attraction, emotional control, and the psychology of power. You don't join for a month, you join for life. Every future course, book, and lesson is yours forever. No subscriptions, no limits, just one decision that changes your direction. If you're serious about growth, discipline, and purpose, click the link below, join the community, enroll once, grow forever. Let's dive in. Compliment number 1, the reverse compliment, curiosity trigger. This is the compliment most men are afraid to use because it doesn't sound safe, it doesn't sound obvious, and it doesn't feel like a compliment at first. That's exactly why it works. Let me show you a real moment. A man was talking to a woman who was clearly used to attention. She was confident, attractive, and knew it. Every guy she talked to followed the same pattern. "You're beautiful. You have amazing eyes. You're different." And she smiled but felt nothing until one man said something unexpected. He looked at her and said, "You're not as simple as you pretend to be." Now pause there. That sentence is not clearly positive. It's not clearly negative. It creates tension. And tension is where attraction lives. Because instead of placing her in a box, he broke the box. Now she has to think, what does he mean? What did he notice? How does he see me? And just like that, she's no longer receiving attention. She's investing in understanding him. Now, here's the psychology behind this. Most compliments close the loop. They give her certainty. "You're beautiful." She already knows that. "You're amazing." She heard it before. No thinking required, no emotional movement, but a reverse compliment opens a loop. It creates a question, and questions pull attention. Now, here's the key. This is not about being negative, it's about being unexpected and perceptive. You are not attacking her, you are showing that you see something deeper without fully explaining it. Now, compare 2 men. One says, "You're really beautiful." The other says, "You look like trouble, but in a controlled way." The first one gives validation. The second one creates identity tension, and identity tension makes her think. And when she thinks, she invests. Now here's the rule A reverse compliment should feel slightly challenging, create curiosity, hint at something deeper, but never disrespect, because disrespect kills attraction, but controlled tension builds it. And that's why this works. You are not trying to impress her. You are making her feel something she didn't expect to feel. And that feeling is what stays. Compliment number 2. The observation compliment. She feels seen, not flattered. Most men compliment what is obvious. Her looks, her style, her smile. And there's nothing wrong with that. But it doesn't create impact, because obvious compliments don't make her feel seen. They make her feel recognized at the surface. And surface-level attention is easy to forget. Now let me show you a different kind of moment. A woman was talking to a man casually. Nothing serious, just normal conversation. She was laughing, telling stories, keeping things light, and in the middle of it, he paused and said, "You act confident, but you think a lot before you trust someone." She didn't smile immediately. She stopped and said, "Why would you say that?" Now understand what just happened. He didn't compliment her appearance. He didn't flatter her personality. He observed something specific and reflected it back to her. And that created something powerful. She felt seen, not in a general way, in a personal way. Now here's the psychology. When you compliment something obvious, you're competing with every other man. But when you notice something subtle, you separate yourself immediately, because now you are not just another voice, you are someone who pays attention. And attention is rare. Now, here's the key detail. An observation compliment is not about being right. It's about being specific enough to feel real. You're not guessing, you're noticing. Now, compare this. You're really nice versus you're nice, but only when you feel comfortable. The first one is generic. The second one creates depth, because now she feels like you're seeing layers. And layers create connection. Now here's the deeper truth. People are attracted to those who see them beyond what they show publicly, because most interactions stay on the surface. But when you go slightly deeper without overdoing it, you create emotional tension. She starts wondering, what else does he notice? How does he see me? Why does he understand this? And just like that, she becomes curious about you. Now here's the rule. An observation compliment should be specific, feel slightly unexpected, touch something deeper than surface, but still feel natural, because if it feels forced, it loses power. But when it lands correctly, it creates a moment she remembers. Not because it was loud, but because it was real. Compliment number 3, the controlled approval. Less validation, more attraction. This is where most men lose everything. They think attraction grows when they give more approval, more compliments, more reassurance, more validation, and for a moment, it works. She smiles, she engages, she responds, but then something shifts. Her energy becomes stable, predictable, and slowly less invested, because constant approval does one thing very clearly. It removes the need for her to earn anything. And when nothing is earned, nothing is valued. Now, let me show you a different moment. A woman was talking to a man who didn't compliment her the way others did. He didn't ignore her. He didn't act cold, but he didn't give approval easily. He listened, he observed, and then after some time he said, "I like that about you. You don't try too hard to be liked." Now notice the difference. He didn't say, "You're amazing, you're perfect, you're incredible." He gave specific approval, but only after observing something. And that changes everything, because now she feels like she earned that recognition, and earned validation feels stronger than given validation. Now here's the psychology. When you give approval too freely, you lower its value. But when you give it selectively, you increase its weight, because now your words feel intentional, not automatic. Now, compare two men. One says, "You're amazing." The other says, "You're actually more grounded than I expected." The first one gives instant validation. The second one gives measured approval. And measured approval creates curiosity, because now she thinks, what made him say that? What else does he notice? What does he actually think of me? And that keeps her engaged. Now here's the deeper truth. Women don't chase compliments. They chase validation that feels rare because rare things feel valuable, and valuable things create emotional movement. Now here's the rule. Controlled approval should come after observation, be specific, feel slightly unexpected, and most importantly, not be constant. Because if everything you say is approval, nothing stands out. But when approval is selective, every word carries weight, and weight creates attraction. Compliment number 4. The identity compliment. She starts seeing herself differently. This is not a normal compliment. It doesn't just make her feel good, it makes her rethink who she is, and that's why it stays. Let me show you a real moment. A woman was talking to a man casually. Nothing intense, just a normal interaction. She was confident, playful, a little guarded, but nothing unusual. And at some point, he said, "You're the type who acts like you don't need anyone, but you care more than you show." She didn't respond immediately. She paused and then asked, "What makes you say that?" Now understand what just happened. He didn't compliment her looks. He didn't flatter her personality. He touched her identity. He reflected something she feels but doesn't openly show. And that creates something powerful. Recognition, not external recognition, internal. Because now she feels like you see a version of her that not everyone sees. Now, here's the psychology. People are deeply connected to how they see themselves, but even more to how they want to be seen. And when you speak to that, you create impact. Now compare this. You're really nice versus you're more thoughtful than you let people notice. The first one is surface. The second one touches identity. And identity creates emotional response because now she's not just hearing words, she's processing herself through your perspective. Now here's the deeper layer. When you give an identity compliment, you are not just describing her, you are framing her, and that frame becomes something she starts to feel around you. She becomes more of that version when she interacts with you, and that creates a unique connection because now you are not just someone she talks to. You are someone who brings out a version of her she likes, and people are drawn to that. Now here's the rule, an identity compliment should touch something deeper than behavior. Feel personal, reflect something she doesn't openly show, but still feel natural. Because if it feels forced, it breaks. But when it lands correctly, it creates a moment she doesn't forget. Not because it was loud, but because it felt true. Compliment number 5, the withheld compliment. The one you don't say that makes her chase you. This is the one that doesn't sound like a compliment at all because you don't fully give it. You hold part of it back, and that's exactly why it works. Let me show you a real moment. A woman was talking to a man who had already shown interest, but not in the usual way. He wasn't over-complimenting, he wasn't chasing, he was present but controlled. At some point, she asked him directly, "So, what do you think about me?" Now, this is where most men fail. They go all in. "You're amazing, you're beautiful, I really like you." And in that moment, everything becomes predictable. But this man paused, looked at her, and said, "I'm still figuring you out." And then he stopped. No explanation, no follow-up, just silence. Now understand what just happened. He didn't reject her, but he didn't fully validate her either. He created an open loop. And open loops are powerful because the mind wants to close them. Now she starts thinking, what does he mean? What does he see? What hasn't he said yet? And just like that, she moves from receiving attention to seeking it. Now, here's the psychology. When you give a full compliment, you close the loop. She understands everything. No thinking required, no emotional investment. But when you partially hold it back, you create tension, curiosity, a need to understand, and that need creates attraction. Now here's the key. This is not about being cold. It's about being measured. You are not denying interest. You are pacing it, allowing her to move closer instead of giving everything at once. Now, compare this. "You're amazing. I really like you" versus "there's something about you I haven't fully figured out yet." The first one gives everything. The second one creates a journey, and attraction lives in the journey. Now here's the rule. A withheld compliment should hint at something positive. Leave something unsaid, create curiosity instead of certainty. because certainty ends tension, and tension creates desire. Compliment number 6, the future projection. She starts imagining you in her life. This one doesn't compliment who she is. It compliments who she could be with you. And that's what makes it powerful. Let me show you a real moment. A man was talking to a woman casually. Nothing serious, just like conversation, a bit of teasing, a bit of connection. And at some point, he said, "You're the type who would actually make things interesting, not boring." Now notice what he did. He didn't say, "You're interesting." He projected her into a future experience, something she could feel before it even happens. And that changes everything, because now she's not just receiving a compliment. She's imagining a reality, a version of herself in a moment with you. And imagination is one of the strongest emotional triggers. Now here's the psychology. The brain doesn't fully separate imagination from experience. When she pictures something clearly, she starts to feel it slightly, and that feeling becomes associated with you. Now compare this. You're fun versus you feel like someone who would make a simple night feel different. The first one is static. The second one is experiential. It creates a scene, a vibe, a possibility. And that possibility pulls her in. Now here's the deeper layer. When you project her into a future, you are not chasing her. You are inviting her into your world. And thus shifts the dynamic, because now she's not wondering, does he like me? She's thinking, what would it feel like to be with him? And that's a completely different level of attraction. Now here's the key. You don't overdo it. You don't make it too obvious. You keep it light, but intentional. You seem like trouble in a fun way. I'd have to see that. Now something happens. She leans in, she imagines, she invests emotionally without even realizing it. And that's why this works, because attraction is not built only in the present. It's built in the possibilities you create in her mind. Now, here's the rule. A future projection compliment should create a feeling, not just a statement. Hint at shared experience, feel natural. Not forced, because when it lands correctly, she doesn't just hear it. She feels it before it happens. And that is powerful. Compliment number 7, the contrast compliment. She feels different around you. This one doesn't just compliment her. It separates you from every other man she talks to. And that's why it hits. Let me show you a real moment. A woman was used to attention. Messages, compliments, reactions, everything predictable. Every interaction felt the same, just different faces. Then one man said something simple. "You're actually calmer than I expected." She paused, not because it was loud, but because it was different. Now here's what happened. He didn't just describe her. He created a contrast between how others see her and how he sees her. And that creates tension, because now she starts thinking, how do others see me? How does he see me differently? Why does he notice this? And just like that, you are no longer another interaction. You are a different experience. Now here's the psychology. Attraction is not only about being liked, it's about being felt differently, because people don't remember what was similar. They remember what stood out. Now compare this. You're really fun versus you're fun, but not in the loud way most people expect. The first one is generic. The second one creates identity contrast. It makes her feel like you see something others don't. And that feeling is powerful, because now she associates you with uniqueness. Now here's the deeper layer. A contrast compliment creates a subtle message. I don't see you the way others do, and that makes her curious, because she wants to understand your perspective. She wants to see what you see, and that pulls her closer. Now here's the key. You're not comparing yourself directly. You're not saying, I'm different from other guys. You're showing it through perception, through how you frame her, through how you notice things others miss. Now, here's the rule. A contrast compliment should highlight something unexpected, create a difference in perception, feel natural, not forced, because when it lands correctly, she doesn't just feel complimented, she feels understood in a unique way, and people are drawn to those who make them feel different from everyone else. In the end, it was never about compliments, not really. It was about how you made her feel about herself. Because most men try to impress, they try to say the right thing, the perfect thing, the safest thing, and in doing that, they become predictable, forgettable, replaceable. But the man who stands out does something different. He creates emotional movement. He makes her think. He makes her feel something unexpected. He makes her question how she's being seen. And that's what stays, not the words, the feeling behind them. Now look at what you learned. The reverse compliment created curiosity. The observation made her feel seen. The controlled approval made your words valuable. The identity compliment touched something deeper. The withheld compliment made her chase clarity. Each one did the same thing. It avoided predictability because predictability kills attraction and tension creates it. Now here's the final truth. You don't need more compliments, you need better ones. More intentional, more controlled, more aware. Because the goal is not to make her smile for a moment. The goal is to create something she keeps thinking about after the conversation ends. And once you can do that, you're no longer just talking to her, you're staying in her mind,